Hi, and welcome to today's Books Alive online event with Kate Parker, author of Ko-Fi and the Giants, and Aurora from Central Otago Libraries. Ko-Fi and the Giants is a finalist in the New Zealand Book Awards for Children and Young Adults in the Best First Book category, the Russell Clark Illustration category, and the Picture Book category. Thank you to the New Zealand Libraries Partnership Program for the opportunity to host these events this week. Aurora and Kate, take it away whenever you're ready.
Great. Hi. Hi, everybody. I can't hear Aurora.
How's it going, everyone? So thank you, like Jackie said, Kate, for sharing some of your knowledge and your process.
Great. So I've come along and I've brought, I've got a slideshow of sort of a background to how I came about the book. Here's the book. So I'll just share that with you now. That might be a good way to just begin. I figured that, yeah, in making this work, I'm just going to share my screen now. This is the scary part. Here we go. Click, click, double click. Oh, here we go. Okay. So when I first began developing the idea for Ko-Fi and the Giants, I was just tinkering around with making things out of paper and cardboard. And I essentially was in my little office and I had a banana box. As you can see here, I just was mucking around with cutting things out of books and paper. And I guess my idea, if I can I, oh yes. So my idea was to sort of play with paper, but then I noticed that through the window was coming the light, and I was noticing how if I threw a few pieces of paper together, they made a quite nice sort of light from one hitting the back of the other. And so I started to look at how, oh, well, maybe I could make some pictures. And then I thought maybe I could make a stop motion video. Like I had all these amazing ideas about creating kind of like a magical world, and you would see this thing moving through, you'd see something happening. And then I looked around and found that there was an artist residency running through the Auckland City Council, and it was asking, because my background's in theatre, so I've made a lot of theatre, and I was just at the point of having a breather from making theatre. We make physical theatre with Red Leap Theatre Company, and I was having a breather from that and thinking, oh, I'm just tired of making theatre for a bit. I just want to do something small and on my own for a little bit. And so the Auckland Council Artist Residency was saying, hey, you can apply and you could go out and be inspired by the Waitakere Regional Park, which is like a 300, no, it's a large regional park on the west coast of Auckland. So I'm just going to click to, so I started researching, thinking about the regional park, and I started researching, and I just printed out pictures, and you can see a few of them here. These are just stuck up on my blinds, and I don't know if I can come a bit closer here, but I was looking at the Kodi forest that was in the regional park at the time, and just looking at these black and white photographs of Kodi forest and Kodi logs. So there's a whole lot of Kodi logs that have been washed down a river and then into the Thames. I think this is from Coromandel. And I was looking at these and thinking, wow, look at all these trees. Oh, wow. And then I just got quite inspired by the imagery, the kind of, I don't know, it's so huge what we've done to the forest and the forests across New Zealand. And this is another one from, this image here is from the west coast around Karekare, the water back in those days, in like the 1940s, 20s, 40s, the sea was closer to the shoreline, and so they built these railway tracks to kind of trundle the logs through to the Manukau harbour so they could get these logs out. And I was just amazed at, like, wow, look what they kind of built to try to get these trees out of the forest. So part of the, this is another sort of like bush tramway from Karikari. And I was just pretty inspired by these photographs. And then I just began kind of, this is really naive. I had no idea about even drawing. I wasn't particularly drawy, like I didn't do a lot of drawing. And so I was starting to kind of like draw, but draw with my knife, like cutting things. I did use scissors, but I found actually my favourite tool is this tool. I don't know if you can see that there. It's a little knife, it's a pen knife, and you can just swap the blades out. And this is the actual knife that I cut all of these things with, and it's the one that I just use all the time. And I cut and I cut, and I was kind of going, that's, talking to people and going, oh yeah, it doesn't look that great. I mean, they weren't that amazing. But I just started to kind of follow my nose and keep going. And then luckily I was able to secure the artist residency, which was to go out to Anawhara, which is on Auckland's west coast, and stay in this house. And you might be able to see down there, there's, I don't know if you can go there, there's a house there. And you can see that Anawhara is this wild, rugged kind of coastline, and that's Kettle House, which it's all really dark wood on the inside. And when I went there, I thought, oh my gosh, it's quite spooky. I don't know, will I be able to be out here by myself? But I took my whole family. So I've got 3 children and my husband, and I took them out there, and then we trundled the kids back to school because it's about 40 minutes from their school. So every day I drove them to school and then raced back out to work, and then raced back to pick them up from school. And then my husband drove in and out from work, and he was like, oh my God, this is so far. But we did it for 8 weeks. And this is kind of the view from up on the cliff. So while I was doing that, I was starting to put together the story of a kind of a character that you might find in a forest, and that you might find had been in the forest for a number of years, and namely kind of thousands of years. And so, and this is like from a walk that's around that area. The landscape is quite vast, and I was able to go with a local park ranger. This is Dan and a friend from Piha. They took me out on Karikari to a valley called the Pararaha Valley, where they had done, like in the past, the Pararaha Valley had kauri logs fired down it. They used to kind of dam up these river valleys and then just let the dam go, and all the logs would come tumbling down. So we went out along this the wild, rugged Karikari beach. And this is a tunnel from where, because the sea came in quite close, they had to build these tunnels to get the logs through. So that's a little tramline log tunnel. And this is the Pararaha Valley. So I was able to walk up this valley, but you could imagine in like a heavy rain or even flooding, this fills up really quickly and can be quite dangerous. And then as I got up further, you can see that's an old kauri log that's got jammed there, and that's just been there for I don't know how many years, like since the 30s or 40s, when they were still tripping these dams and firing logs down them. But it's quite sort of, it's quite rugged landscape. And here are some kauri trees. These ones are actually from in the Waipua forest up north. But I just love the fact that they feel like standing, they've got an energy and an entity about them, and they feel really, when you're there, like they're not like people, but just like there's an energy about them. And they've been standing for so long. these are only young ones, really. I mean, well, old, but, you know, maybe 300 or 400 years old. But that's young for a Kōrero tree. Here are my children on the beach. This was, yeah, we had to kind of look at the beach and the weathers. There's Lucan on the swing. There's Elsa. And there's these Kōwhai, the Kōwhai plant. One of the entity of the character, well, I don't know why, but my daughter Kōwhai, this is here, this girl here is my daughter, her name is Kōwhai. So I kind of was almost in a way putting her in the story. And this Kōwhai here is a special Kōwhai because it's only on the west coast. It's a sort of a smaller variety of Kōwhai, and if you look in closely, you can tell because its leaves are furry, and it's the only Kōwhai that has furry leaves like that. And they're all around this kettle house where I was staying when I was making the work. There's me making the work. And see outside here, you can see there's a big Pahurakawa tree, and I was quite taken with that tree. There it is again, and the swing swings out over kind of a precarious kind of cliff area. And that's the tree again. I was just taken with the way that it was so, I don't know, knotted up, and there were vines, and yeah. And so it began to appear in the picture and in the pictures that I was making. That's a very early version of it. And then it became more formed. And later on down the track, you'll see it in its final form. That's just looking out from the beach. There's Elsa, my daughter, who always walked around with pens in her hand, even when she was down in the wild wind of the beach. And it can get kind of really rugged down that way. And so I was there cutting things out and kind of at the same time wanting the light to come through and light up the images. And so what I did was I didn't kind of go linearly about the story. I didn't kind of think, okay, I'm going to make it about Kōwhai and I'm going to start here and go to here. I just kind of started making random pictures. Made a picture with a tree, and then I kind of went, oh, yes, there's trees falling in the picture. And then I started looking at the smoke and that billowing kind of quality of all the forest being cut down. And so then I started just making the pictures, not really thinking too much about the linear progression of the story, but allowing, I think, that the story to kind of inform me what it was going to be. And it got to a point where I kind of lined up the, I don't know if this is going to go in linear form, but anyway, that's me cutting out Kōwhai flowers and popping them in. And I use blue tack a lot, and just trying things out, putting things up, having a look, putting a light behind, putting the window behind, just trying things really. Here's one that just appeared because I was just throwing things in the box, and then I suddenly went, oh, and actually some of these were cut out from other pieces, like I'd cut out, and it was the bit that I'd cut out from that I then held up and went, oh, that looks interesting. So I was kind of holding things up to the light, and then I kind of went, oh, the way the land has that when you look across the valley and you see the different landforms. I was really intrigued by that. So then I lined these pieces up along the window and started to listen to what kind of the voice was coming for what I wanted to write down. For like it was like a little voice that was telling me what each bit was going to be, what was going to be said. Yeah, I've got a lot of landscape here, I see. That just shows you how far the tide came in. The tide was coming into here, and then there were some birds down here. I got very attached to the local oyster catcher that was nesting down here, and then there were two dotterels also nesting because they nest quite close together. the oyster catchers chase away the dogs, because there were dogs all the time, people bringing their dogs down. And the oyster catchers were quite grumpy and territorial and would chase away the dogs, or at least attack people, and that would keep the dotterels safe. So, but the water came right in, and I think actually the oyster catchers were nesting down there and lost their eggs that day because it was a particularly high tide. So then I was able to show the light boxes as they were at the Arataki Visitor Centre, which was down the road from where I it's kind of on the edge of the national regional park. So when I finished the project, I put all the boxes in the back of my car and drove them to Arataki, and they hopped out there, and then there was an exhibition there. And then from there, I then went about garnering funding to finish the story, and then maybe look at how would I make it into a book. Could it be pop-up? And I went down a whole process of trying to work out how to make it into a pop-up book, which was just too expensive and challenging. So ended up getting them photographed by lovely Haru Samashima, and then finally connected with Sophia Egan-Reid from Mary Egan Publishing, and that was just like so great, because Little Love, like the publisher, she was just so patient and kind and generous, and waited for me to kind of gain a bit more funding so then I could get the photographs put into book form. Yeah, and then her sister Anna Egan-Reid, who's the designer, designed the layout of the book, and so I'm really excited. It's been such a long process. It's been like a 4-year process. So I'll just pop through there. There's one that didn't make it in, but that was the train line with the logs. And then I put a little tiny kōwhai up here in the tree, but that one didn't make it through. And these ones did. So that's how they ended up being. And now they've been made into, as you can see here, they're like a plywood frame with paper, and then you just put the light behind it. And then now I've been able to actually put the light within the box, so I can have a little switch and turn the box on like a lamp. There's the landform one that you saw back. And there's me. Then I went and had a bit of a rest and did some work helping people clean their feet on the tracks. So the Kauri dieback in the Waitakere forest is quite bad, and it's being trundled along by people's feet. So the best way is to scrub your feet. So I'm sitting at the top of the track helping people scrub their feet. And also outside my house is a big Kauri tree, so I started planting seeds. I didn't even know what a Kauri seed looked like until I went through this process, and I was really amazed. They've got a little wing. You can see the little wings. And they float down. You can just pop them in the earth, and then they pop up like little seedlings. They're really cute. There they are. Grow little seedlings. Oh yes, and so then there's the boxes that I then had made. They've got little lights inside them, and they look all kind of professional like. So going from the banana box through to the professional wooden box has been quite a fun process, and quite cool to see. And I was lucky enough to be part of the Auckland Arts Festival, and they had the Smith & Koei shop front window, which was really exciting and great to present the story through the window. Oh, yep, and this is us at the book launch. And that's a kōwhai. She's another kōwhai. And so she was really excited to come because her name was kōwhai. And as she walked in, and she was like, it's me. You know, she walked in and she had that feeling about her, like, I've arrived to my book launch. It was gorgeous. So there she is, a little sweetie. And there's Sophia and Anna Egan-Reid, my lovely publisher and designer. And that's my son, Lucan. And there's the story up at the Arataki Centre. So, yeah, that's in a nutshell, the development and creation of Kōwhai and the Giants. I'll just press stop share because then I'll come back to you on the main screen. Yeah.
That is absolutely fantastic. It's easy to see how you were inspired with all that gorgeous scenery around you. I noticed that you mentioned that there was the one picture that didn't make it into the book. Were there any others like that you created but didn't actually make the final cut?
Yeah, there were actually quite a few. I kind of went down a dark road. After the initial kind of beginning, I tried to look into the future. I tried to kind of think, okay, I'm gonna look. This is the past. I'm gonna look forward into the future, and I just went into this really kind of dark place of the future was doom and gloom, but then there was one seed of hope coming through, and I created these, and I loved them actually at the time. These buildings that were all higgledy-piggledy and like a kind of like a topsy-turvy city. And even though I loved the picture, it was quite depressing, and I felt like, oh gosh, this is too hard. I don't think I can envisage the future bright enough that that is going to inspire hope. And I think that's almost something that we don't know. So why bother trying to, I don't know, imagine it, but maybe just allow the energy to be there. So I kind of then thought, okay, well, I'm just going to go for the energy, because in order to kind of grow a new world, I think the energy is probably the most important thing. If we get very depressed and we can't see it, and the world is in a place where it's sort of on a precipice, really. But I think if we've got that drive and that vigor, and I get that through children when I'm working with kids. I've been working in at Newland Primary School, and the kids there are so I've been recording their voices actually for a project that I'm doing down at the Maritime Museum called I Am Island and Sea. And the project is about the way we want to be in our world, the way we want to respect and care and create, work with kaitiaki values, those values of kaitiakitanga and manaakitanga and even kotahitanga, where it's sort of like a oneness, like everything is connected. And I've been so amazed by working with their voices and their heart, and it's just the feeling. So, yeah, so that brings me back to, there were quite a few pictures that didn't make the cut. And some of them are on my website. I've got one with a whale, which I really love, but we didn't go into the water with Kōwhai. She kind of stayed in the forest. So that's coming, I guess.
Keep an eye out for a sequel.
Yeah.
Did you always know that there was this sort of end product of a book or a exhibition, or did that change and evolve as you continued to create?
Yeah, totally. I didn't know at all what I was making to start with. I really felt like I wanted to make that stop motion movie. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, I can't, I'm making pictures. I felt like, I'm making pictures and they're still, it's a bit boring. Like I was kind of going, and then I go, no, actually, it's not boring. Just be gentle on yourself and allow things to just come, because, there might be something in this. And then I thought, well, maybe I'm making a book. But then, you think, I'd never make a book. How could I make a book? No one's going to want to read a book so then it becomes about me, and the ego and whatever. And so if you just get rid of that and stop faffing around and just do what you're doing, that it will tell you. And then, leave it to the, I don't know, just leave yourself out of it sometimes is probably a good thing, I think.
That's good advice. Do you have any other words of wisdom from the process for anyone who's interested in either writing a book or creating this sort of shadow art like you did?
Yeah, right. I think just follow your nose. Keep trying. You can see from, showing you those pictures of very, very early with banana boxes and not looking all that great. Like, things don't always look great to start with, and that's okay. And I think it's about holding on when you're in that place, because nothing good ever comes from that. It isn't like amazing to start with. I don't think anybody writes an incredible thing to begin with. Unless we're genius, which obviously there are some, but most of us aren't. And so then you just have to start where you are and place your faith in just one thing, like just like something about what you're doing, and then find other things to like about what you're doing. I think it's following the like, isn't it? It's following the positive, rather than going, oh no, that's not going to be good enough, I'm not going to be able to do it, okay, I quit, because then nothing ever happens. So yeah, I think it's and you just never know, do you, what is coming to you from the ether. So when you see something, you might see a color or a shape or something that makes you feel excited, or you go, oh, I love that texture. Make notes of those things. I think they're really important. Like, make note of that color red that you go past every time, or you see, a car goes past and you're like, oh my God, that color, I really love that color. Make note of those things, because they're kind of like little signals telling you stuff, and then you go towards those things, and then they find their way into what you're doing.
Yeah. And then I think we've just got time for one more question. So I'm really curious, what would you say is the one thing that you want people to take away from reading Ko-Fi and the Giants? Like, what's that core seed of the message that you want everyone to understand?
I think there's a few things, but one of the key things I wanted was people to just plant native trees. I really see it in myself. I can see, even if you go out on a bushwalk, there's seeds all around. I often come back and I've got Ko-Fi seeds in my pocket because they're hard. We've even got one right here. They're hard, nuggety, like they last in seawater, and so you see seeds hanging around. Plant, because you see how the earth, the native trees are burning in Brazil. We'll just plant more. We'll just keep planting. Yeah. And I think that's probably the key. And hope. I think we can do it. The earth can change. It can grow. It can become this amazing thing. And I think we are doing it. It is happening. It just sometimes feels very hard to look forward. And I think particularly for young people, I look at my own children and the challenges that they see, and particularly teenagers, older children, like my older daughter. Sometimes it just feels like, what's the point? And I think, no, come on, we need to. Come on, let's go. We've got this chance. It's now. We've got to do it. We've got to make this world great. We've just got to hang in there.
Absolutely. And thank you for creating such a beautiful book to share that message, as well as sharing some of your process and the gorgeous photos and everything today.
Right, cool. And just look, if there's any questions from anybody, I'm available on email. You can kind of, and I'm on Instagram as well, so you can kind of just fire questions at me if anyone's got any. Cool. Thanks, Aurora.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I greatly enjoyed listening to you.
Cool.
Well, thank you both for your event. And have a great day, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie.